Good morning to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for Friday, October 18th, 2019. I am in Gainesville, Florida, getting ready to head out after I do this update, going over to Cedar Key to begin setting up equipment in anticipation of what should be a tropical storm or subtropical storm. The name, of course, is going to be Nestor, Nestor, and this will be a pretty big impact event for a lot of people. Not just a rainmaker. There will be some wind, some power outages, storm surge at the coast, that kind of thing. And all of this is going to move into the southeast United States over the course of the weekend. So let's get started with a look at the satellite animation. There are a couple of other features to watch. This is our potential tropical cyclone in the Gulf. There's also some energy out here, a tropical wave interacting with some strong upper level winds tangled up near the vicinity of the islands, and some of this moisture could push west with time, but strong upper level winds will prevent any significant development. But there may be some squally weather at times for portions of the Lesser Antilles down here, as is the case right now, and some of that might spread through the U.S., British Virgin Islands, maybe Puerto Rico, but again remaining very disorganized as strong upper level winds this time of year prevent any development from taking place usually down here. It's not always. Sometimes you get development even into November. We remember back in mid-November, what was it, 1999, that we had Lenny, wrong way Lenny. It went from west to east across the Caribbean. So you never say never, but I don't see much coming of this area right through here. But it's there, and it's creating some squally weather, so just be aware of that. Then the other feature, of course, is our potential tropical cyclone, as it is being called. Hopefully Recon gets in there and sees enough organization just to go ahead and name it Nestor. It's just easier to call it that. And you notice the structure of it. If we zoom in here and look at the satellite animation of the Gulf of Mexico, it's got that sort of comma shape to it. Not your classic looking tropical cyclone for sure, but it is traversing very warm water. Upper ocean heat content in this area is very high, very plentiful. So there's a lot of latent heat, a lot of energy, and it's a big storm system. It's something to take seriously. You don't have to have Cat 5 Hurricane Michael to create problems, and this weather is all headed for this location, the coastline, and then inland areas of Florida, and then up through the southeast as a whole, and it will create several inches of rainfall, which is great. It will create, high wind from time to time, probably not hurricane force, but you can't completely rule that out, maybe in some gusts. And along the coast, there will be a storm surge, especially up here in the Big Bend area, down towards the Nature Coast, maybe even as far south as Clearwater in the northern parts of Tampa Bay, and some impacts even farther south, down towards Collier County and beyond, just with the strong onshore flow and the long fetch of wind coming out of this system. Remember, it's a large weather system in the open Gulf, pushing all of the water ahead of it into this area. Generally speaking, the net transport of energy is all towards the Florida Peninsula, right up here in this corner, and that's why there could be a fairly substantial storm surge of maybe 5 feet above ground level. And we can see that represented here in the National Hurricane Center's wording on the 7 a.m. Central Time Intermediate Advisory, or 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And once this shifts into the Eastern Time Zone with the center, this will reflect in the updates, and they'll all be Eastern Time for what it's worth. Anyway, that's the headline. Dangerous storm surge and tropical storm force winds expected along portions of the northern Gulf Coast later today and tonight. That's their main headline, and it is that way for a reason. We look at the public advisory. You see all the watches and warnings, and remember, there is a storm surge warning in effect. That's fairly new over the last few years. That's been implemented. In addition to tropical storm warnings or hurricane warnings that they have, the Hurricane Center issues, now there's a storm surge warning. And in this case, from Indian Pass down to Clearwater Beach. So a good chunk of the Gulf Coast of the Florida coastline. And if we go back and look at the hazards affecting land, I really point to this a lot. Storm surge is the biggest issue right now, 3 to 5 feet, and from Indian Pass over to Chassahowitzka, again probably saying that wrong, and then from there to Clearwater Beach 2 to 4. This is dependent on exactly when it comes in. That's why there's a range. We can hope that it will be on the low side, but if it's not and it's on the higher side, that's going to bust up some docks, create some problems with boats, and make sure their moorings are secure. There's a lot of festivals and other things going on this weekend. Just not a good time for a tropical storm, and when is there ever, right? But these are the hazards that you need to be ready for. I try to emphasize this often. There you go. So storm surge, wind, tropical storm conditions, gale force winds, even along the Atlantic coast. I'll talk about that more in a minute. And then rainfall approaching maybe 6 inches in some places, but a wide swath of 2 to 4, which is going to be very beneficial. All right, the vorticity signature, we take the satellite animation here, peel it away and look down below at the vorticity, another way to analyze the health of the system. And it's still oblong, but it is getting more focused and there's more energy there trying to bundle. So it's making a run at becoming better organized, and some of the modeling is suggesting that it does so as it approaches the Florida Panhandle, now less than 24 hours away, probably. And we're talking about the center. So let's go ahead and look at the latest GFS. We could look at all kinds of modeling, but with it being so close to landfall and the structure of it kind of different than what we're used to, we'll just focus on the GFS for now. From run to run, we're going to see different strengths probably, because the modeling is going to pick up on what's happening at the current analysis, and it may run with that. And so you're going to see this run-to-run variability perhaps in the modeling. And I say that because this morning's GFS run, you can see the system down here in the Gulf of Mexico. The 6Z run is the strongest yet. In fact, it paints it initializing. Well, it doesn't do the initial. This is the 6-hour plot at 996 millibars right about now. The initial position and intensity would be at 2 a.m. That's the 6Z start time. That's what that means, 6 Zulu or 6 UTC. So here we are. This is what it looks like now. This is this afternoon around 2 p.m. Eastern. And then finally around 8 p.m. tonight, the pressure gets down into the low 990s. And then finally by 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, so tonight, down to about 990. You see the rain shield associated with it, heavy rain. The overall precip pattern looks like a comma, and it's moving in at this point with very heavy rain, squally conditions into the areas where Michael impacted last year. Strong southerly fetch all the way up into the Big Bend area, the Nature Coast, and again, even down here along southwest Florida, even into Collier County, maybe mainland Monroe, coastal Monroe. Onshore flow, you will notice a rise in water levels. So yes, this will impact pretty much all of the west coast of Florida. And even in the Keys, there'll be some minor noticeable impacts. Then, along the interior areas of Florida, we could see some squall lines develop out of this. The risk of tornadoes in this right front quadrant over here relative to the storm's motion. This area right through here could be some severe weather, so you're going to want to monitor that. So the GFS showing landfall right about the time the sun comes up, something like that, near dawn. And again, very heavy rain, strong onshore flow. It's a big impact. I mean, it is. And, it's football weekend, people traveling, the festivals I mentioned, there's plenty of those on the East Coast, on the West Coast. And this is going to be a problem. You look at the interstate system, I-10 runs through here, I-75, I-95, and all these secondary state highways in Florida. it's going to be a nightmare for people traveling. So be careful out there. High-profile vehicles in that wind, some of those gusty winds, 50, 60 miles per hour perhaps. You got to be careful, all right? Seriously, don't look at this and just blow it off. It's going to be a significant impact, not probably a hurricane, but we don't just discount stuff just because it's not going to be a hurricane. Don't want to overhype it either. You know, you got to keep everything in context. It is a late season, very late season, sort of hybrid of tropical, subtropical, whatever. But folks, it's all about the impact, and that's what I try to focus on the most. All right, looking at the watches and warnings, you can tell we're getting into the fall season frost and freeze warnings up here, and then small craft advisories in the coastal, just offshore coastal waters of the southeast. Maybe some, and we'll zoom in and take a look at some of these closer. Then your tropical storm warnings down here in the Gulf, etc. Weather.gov is a great tool. Go to weather.gov. You can click on the map, and as an example, let's just go up here in the low country of South Carolina. Gale watch in effect for the low country area. We can go back just as an example here. Click on near Charleston. There we go. So the coastal waters off of Charleston, gale watch. As this comes up, you know, through South Carolina, that strong onshore flow with this highly energized storm system is going to create some problems and some noticeable impacts. Down along the Big Bend area, all kinds of nice infographics, you know, a summary of all the warnings. There's your storm surge warning in the purple. So use this, and if you want to know a specific area, for example, you live in Perry. Yeah, I live up in Perry. I want to know what's going on for my area. Click on Perry and read these right here. Very helpful. Hurricane local statement, tropical storm warnings more broad, but that hurricane local statement, this is your friend. It tells you all you need to know about your local area and what to expect for your specific region. It's got an overview and then the impacts. All right, so check this out. It's written by the local National Weather Service office, and it can be very helpful. So just to outline those impacts again and what my plans will be, bring me back on as we finish up here. Again, I'm in Gainesville, and you can see where that is right here. And when I post this video, I'm going to head out to Cedar Key down here, and I'm going to meet up with one of our patrons. His name is Cullen, and he's going to be coming up and helping me today. He's one of our patrons on Patreon, and so he's offering some assistance. I'll take it. It's always nice to have that help. And so we will set up here in Cedar Key, and then my plan is to set up another system. And let me zoom in here so we can see what's what. Maybe. Come on. There we go. And then my plan is to go from Cedar Key, if it'll start populating with the town names, that's great. A camera system in Cedar Key to monitor what happens there with a pressure sensor probably. Another one up here in Horseshoe Beach. A third one in Steinhatchee. And then a fourth camera system we will set up. If Cullen can go with me all the way, that's great. If he has to turn around and head back after this, that's fine. The fourth camera up here in St. Mark's. Then probably one over in Carabel, and then maybe one over here in the Gulf Pines area, and then finally a system over in Mexico Beach, just because, you know, the center, you know, may come in near Mexico Beach, it may come in near Apalachicola. I'm not as worried about the center in terms of the core or anything like that. Most of the impacts from what would presumably be Nestor are going to be felt along the Big Bend area over here and south in terms of the most substantial impacts. Mexico Beach, Panama City, that area, Port St. Joe, and then in the interior, Tallahassee, Mariana, you know, Bluntstown, you name it, rain, gusty winds, that kind of thing. But my concern is the storm surge, and that is generally from this area down to around here. That's the most important area for storm surge that could be several feet above ground level. And if this intensifies more than forecast, you could add on maybe another foot. We'll see. Please take that seriously. So that's the plan. I will have the camera systems running for our HurricaneTrack insiders. It will be in our app. If you have our app still, we no longer really service the app. I'm getting ready to phase it out and do something better. The time of mobile apps, we'll worry about that later. But yes, if you have our app, you know the name of it. If you already have it, check the camera section, and the camera should populate there. Our patrons on Patreon that support what we do, if you're at the $10 level or higher, you should have your login information, and you log into HurricaneTrack Insider. And if not, if you don't have it, message me on Patreon and let me know, and I'll help you out. And then I'll post some stuff on Twitter, of course. Not trying to monetize everything, but we got to be able to fund what we do, and that's how we do it. And we have a great group of people on Patreon that help make a lot of this possible. So with the cameras, by the way, I'm putting these pressure sensors, and hopefully put up one of our weather stations, probably in Steinhatchee, and I got a good location for that already picked out, and we'll see what happens. I will be streaming live. The vehicle cam is running right now. That'll be live on YouTube. I'll turn the audio on today. I drove down yesterday and last night with the audio off most of the time, just to kind of listen to music. If you put copyrighted music on YouTube, the algorithms get all upset, even if it's in the background. So that's why I turned it off yesterday. Today, though, it'll be on all the time because we got a lot to talk about when there's updates, etc., and I'll be able to do that live over the public YouTube feed. All right, so get ready. It's coming. Hang in there. Hurricane season's almost over, and we just got to get through this one last event. Fingers crossed that this is the last one, and we will see what develops from it. You know that I'll be on top of it, and we will get some impressive video from it, at least an attempt at that, and collect some valuable data no matter what happens. I take all of these seriously. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to do this as a job, and I appreciate all the support that you guys give me, whether it's on Patreon or just the fact that you watch these videos. I appreciate it. It comes from right here. Thank you. Have a great rest of your Friday. Thanks as always for tuning in. I am Mark Sudduth in Gainesville, Florida, getting ready to head out as we set up, meeting with one of our patrons, as I said, getting ready to set up for what would eventually be, presumably, Tropical Storm Nestor. I will see you from the road.